That famous saying, he who does not know his history does not have a future, comes into play.
I'll tell you one thing for sure. Nowhere is better than your own people.
Somalis can easily adapt to anything.
You ask yourself that question once in your life. Where do I belong?
You are not a foreigner. Marka inta timaadid. My name is Mohammed Hassan. Guys, welcome to our show. And Ania, I'm a blogger based in Mogadishu since 2012. I've been a youth campaigner for the last, I think, 7 years. Then I stepped over from the youth campaign because, you gradually grow older than from the youth. And now I'm also exploring a lot of entrepreneurship in terms of internet and trying to make my own startups and whatnot. I think, Abdul, it's great to be here with you today, mashallah.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the conversation. My name is Abdul Aziz Ali, and we are here today to engage in various discussions, talks, and debates and dialogues, which are very important.
And there's going to be a lot of discussion.
Yes, so let me just start by introducing myself to my listeners. Those of you who are not aware of me, I am an entrepreneur. I run a company by the name of Stargazing Somalia, and what I do is counseling, and I give a lot of advice on social and economic and personal affairs which are relating to one's social and personal life. Other than that, we're trying out different things. So, just so you know, I'm a resident of Hamar Adde.
I think, Abdul, it's great to be here with you today, mashallah.
Yeah, definitely, mate.
I think
it's really great to be here, and I do agree with one thing that you emphasized on. We are all here to travel our motherland. We're all here to see our culture. I'm sure some of you listeners out there probably don't know your Dakhan and your Dia Medahan. Before I get a backlash on my Somali.
And we want to talk about a lot of things, Abdul. We don't want to just categorize Marakti, make them into, we're going to leave some things out and go to the other scripts. We want to keep this unscripted. We want to keep this unedited. We want our conversation to travel to other aspects of the country, across the globe. And a lot of things that people now tend to talk about in the Somali community is all about politics. That's something that we're all tired of. We want to focus on the social issues. We want to focus on Hormarka, in terms of business-wise, in terms of education, health. Like I said, all aspects of society, showing. And Manta, I think the first subject we're going to go straight into is being a diaspora in Somalia.
How does that feel?
How does that feel?
How does that feel? Yes, being from the diaspora community, living in Somalia for the past over 7-8 years now, I could reflect a lot on my experience, and I'm sure you can as well. The beginning is, I'm sure every one of you can agree as well, Juba Airline. Andalo Airline, when it picks you up from Dubai and it's coming to Somalia, you would think that plane is going to be falling apart in the sky. Marka, other than that, the love for my people. Yes, as a diaspora person in this country, I enjoy it a lot. The food is fresh. Things are organic.
Okay, let's go step by step. What was the first thing that hit you when you landed in Mogadishu International Airport?
That cameras are as lethal as a weapon. Cameras are just as bad as you pulling a gun out on somebody. So that was one of my worst experiences as I landed in Aden Adde International. All this will be, for you listeners out there, all this will be in my description link below. And these things are all recorded. So this, I'm talking about the incident that happened in Aden Adde. I actually have it on film. So I landed, and me just being a Chinese tourist with my camera out, my bum bag, and then my driver was standing there and he saw me recording, and then he just threw a fit. Why are you recording? Why have you got a camera out? So that was a bit of a bizarre experience for us coming from the West. How about yourself?
Well, the first thing that hit me when I landed, Abdul, if I be straight up with you and the viewers and the listeners to Hawaii, that fresh breeze of the ocean. It was like amazing.
No, it was breathtaking. When you see the view in the sky, it's breathtaking.
And when you land in America, so when it lands, it's just absolutely amazing. And one of the things as well is that, you feel a type of connection. You feel like there's a connection that's been lost for so long, and
a longing.
Amir. Like it's like, I don't know how you describe it. Some people will call it spiritual. Some people will call it love. Some people will call it so many languages. But for us, it was coming back to something that we felt like we lost. I don't know if you feel with me.
I told you, a home away from home.
A home away from home.
Yes, exactly. A home away from home. Just to give you a glimpse of that, imagine yourself leaving your motherland at the age of 4, arriving in a foreign land, bred straight from there for the next 30 years. How would you feel coming home? You'd feel the same. That breeze. You'll have a sense of a belonging.
A
connection right there, and that was an overwhelming experience, and it was very emotional. So I would love for those of you guys who haven't reached, and I'm sure some of you out there are Somali listeners, and you probably be wondering why and these two brothers even speaking in Somali.
But I mean, we can do another episode for all Somali language. And I think it's very important that you raise that, because we also want the viewers to be based not also outside but also inside the country. But I think the idea is that we're trying to establish a connection with being abroad and coming back home. So we want the viewers, we want to catch the viewers, exactly, the viewers outside. We want to show them that, you are not a foreigner. You are home. You basically, you are where you was made at. If not you, then where your parents were made at. And another thing that really, Abdul, that hit me was seeing so many family members that you never knew existed. Guys will come up to you, everybody, hey, I'm your long cousin. What happened? Where have you been? We haven't seen you for so many years. You've changed. And you have no idea who this person is, and it's one of those funny things that
we've all, I think, been through that, where your uncle or your auntie would walk in and they'd bring 7 other siblings or 9 other siblings, and then they start doing the family tree countdown for you. Yeah, it was a bizarre experience for me as well, indeed. Again, growing up in the West with the family of only an extended of 6 and 8, only up to 8, and then arriving here and seeing that my family extends more than that, it was well, I can say something I needed to adjust to.
and it also shows us cultural wise, and in the West we tend to think that having 2 3 kids, it's enough, 1 it's enough. But when you come here, you realize the beauty of seeing Marakti. So many siblings all connected, helping each other, supporting each other. It's like a small village.
Yes.
And these are one of the things that in terms of our culture. It's beautiful seeing. Example now, my auntie, she's got 15 kids. 15.
MashaAllah.
10 boys, 5 girls. For me, coming from abroad, Abdul, and seeing that in here, automatically you presume, she must have had a tough time. But when you talk to her and she tells you, you know what, I actually enjoyed it. I actually, I pray to God that I could get more than I have right now. It's about the cultural differences in society.
Man, I do agree. There's a huge difference in society, and we are used to coming from a big household, 9 siblings, 10 siblings, and whatnot. But for your listeners out there, what do you guys reckon? Do you reckon a big household is good? Or do you reckon it's all about having 2 or 3 kids and moving on?
Exactly.
So please leave your opinions, shall I say. Don't troll us.
And if I come back to the blogging, I remember I wrote the 8 commandments for the diaspora when they come to Somalia.
8 commandments.
The 8 commandments. So,
okay, what were they?
For example, I'll put the link below the blog URL. But example, rule number 1 is don't stop the arrogance. No matter how smart you are, no matter how much education you have,
Arrogance.
no matter how much good English you speak, you know, there are youths here who, you know, have done a lot more things in a different circumstances, in a very challenging circumstances.
Yes.
Marka xogaa stop the arrogance, because there's a stigma that, you know, the diaspora, when they come, chin up, big Ray-Ban sunglasses.
Stubborn.
You know, I was stubborn amal, you know, it gives out that energy.
That is a wrong vibe to give out.
And that's the wrong vibe to give up.
No, completely. You shouldn't come with that sort of arrogantness. But then, we as a Somali people have belief, and I have seen in our own society, we have this strong, what do you call it? Belief or a strong tradition, perhaps, I don't know. Dakhan, yeah, they would call it dakhan in tradition. So they have this strong stance, and there is a saying, a proverb that said, "Those that don't believe in anything will fall for anything." So at least they have something to stand on. So I can say it's something to be proud of, you know. But having said that, that can lead to what the brother Hassan was just
Stigma.
the stigma, where arrogantness, stubbornness, hard-headedness, you know. And a simple logic conversation will not be able to get through. And I could speak about many examples like that.
But I think Abdul Hattao, that's where we have to come in and show that, you know, we're not
Shine a light
aliens.
on it.
Exactly, that alien meaning, you know, we are people who, think, you don't control your destiny. Destiny, we believe that as Islam, we believe that destiny is already been written for you. So for us to go abroad, this was not something that we had our own choice on. We booked our ticket. We did not travel alone and pack our suitcases. We were young children that were taken abroad by their parents, who were in that government circle, all that political drama. So they had to escape and whatnot. But at
They
the same,
left
by force or
Anyone
by
looking for safety of his family is understandable, completely understandable.
or by absi as well, or timaday. Lakin waxyaabaha oo nalaga rabo anaga waxa when we come back, we need to show that, you know, guys, isku dhaqanaanay, we the same people. You know, my name is Abdul.
Having said that, I'm going to have to just quite disagree on one point there, which is regardless of where a Somali person is, what we cannot deny, undeniable, is we do have different dhaqan. We have different cultures.
You mean in terms of inside Somali people, good or that, Mr.
Okay. When I say Somali, I'm talking about global stage. So on a global stage, it is difficult because we do have different backgrounds, different cultures. Just because your bloodline is Somali doesn't mean you were born thinking Somali, you know? So,
but going into that, and do you still believe that, you know, regardless of the culture that you grew up in, does that mean that you should lose your culture that your parents grew up in and their parents grew up in?
You cannot lose something that you don't know.
So, go into
So
details. How?
exactly. So you can't lose something that you don't know. So if you weren't brought up in that culture, or you were brought up in the native land, its culture, then it would be very difficult for you to pick up something that you hardly knew about. So, for example, if you were a shepherd and you were born into a city and you lived in and you were bred in a city, tomorrow there's no way you're gonna pick up with the lifestyle of a shepherd. And I'm not saying the Somali dhaqan is in comparison to somebody in a city and a shepherd. Just the example of the culture. You know, everybody has a culture. Everybody has a way of perceiving the world. So in that aspect, yes. you will lose it. And I can speak for myself, because the reason being is it happened to me, having been gone for 30 years. Because the reason why I can reflect on this is because I can speak from my personal experience. For me, I have never brought up with Somalis, never grew up with Somalis, never really knew Somalis. And my culture at home was completely different to what was projected outside. And it made it difficult. So I know 110% those of my generation, they struggled between two lifestyles and two dakhan. They didn't know whether the Western or to go Eastern.
And I think at that period, for example, I left my brothers and my family to UK when I was about the age of 6 years old. So what I've done is I've studied my brothers they went to UK at the age of about 16, 15 and whatnot. So they were slightly older than us when they went abroad. For them, it was very difficult to adapt to the new culture of Great Britain and whatnot. They still had that Somali custom up until now, where we still call them freshies, even though they've been in the UK for 30 years or whatnot, just like us. But we still call them freshies because they still have the custom, the Somali custom of back home, because they grew up in Somalia and they've realized and they knew about the culture. Unlike us, someone like me, I was 6 years old. I did not know anything about the Somali culture. But Abdul, I'm telling you, me personally,
because of the older lot, they had that effect. Because of the older lot, they had that effect on you.
Not necessarily. I think it was different for us because, like I said, psychologically, the older you are when you go to abroad, it's different to adapt than while you are a younger person when you go to abroad.
So did you have older siblings living with you?
Yes, older siblings living with us who still have the Somali custom tradition, even though they've been there for over 25 years. But for us who were under the age of 10 years old that traveled to the UK, it was much different. We adapted to the British custom society and lifestyle.
So Mark, my question to you would be, how did you guys relate to one another? Because you have somebody like yourself, you said, who understands Michael Jordan. And then you have somebody living in the same house as you who understands.
Exactly.
I don't know, somebody.
Mohammed Siad
Barre, I don't know, you know. Sophia. One of those legends from Somalia.
And I think what happened was we just left them to them. We didn't bother them, they did not bother us. We knew about the latest cartoons, the latest trends, the latest TV, the latest magazines. They were still connected to Somalia. But when I reached the age of 20, I started to realize, who are you? You have to account to yourself who you are, because that famous saying, he who does not know his history does not have a future, comes into play.
Yes, totally. Totally. Yes, I agree.
And the thing I had to do was I had to rediscover who I am, Abdul. I had to ask myself, hey,
Hortel, that word was what I was looking for. Rediscover yourself. That was the trauma. You had to rediscover yourself completely, because you're not there and you're not here. You're in between. Marka, one point you made earlier on, which is totally true, and I agree. Yeah, child psychologists have said that many times before. They've said a child that's under 7, until the age of 7, he is manipulated and influenced with his surroundings. After 7, you cannot change his thoughts and his opinions.
And that's when my big brothers come into play.
So that's when they come into play, because they were 16. They already were about Siadberry and they were about the back home lifestyle. They would not understand your Tom and Jerry cartoons. And
with the music, they had the Somali. They were listening to Somali music, and we were listening.
Yo music.
Exactly. But like in Abdul, at the same time, like I said, you have to reach a point in your life where you have to realize who are you.
Yeah, you will. Especially when you live in a foreign land, you can definitely relate to, many of your listeners can relate to if you're living in a native land. You ask yourself that question once in your life. Where do I belong? Who do I belong to? and who am I? What am I? Okay. Yes, I can agree with the influencers' point of view where they say you make who you are, you become who you are. But that's a different aspect. But when I'm speaking about know who you are and what you are, meaning where you from, what is your lineage? For crying out loud, you go out and get a DNA ancestral test. Yet you don't want to find out which village or Tula you came from.
And it's contradicting.
It's completely contradicting. I've met a few Somalis back in the UK where they were telling me, oh, why don't you get your DNA ancestral done? I'm like, I already know my ancestral. I can count like 7 backwards, you know? And because they don't know, they go as far as having to find out if they're African or... I'm sorry. I'm not with that program. I'm African. I know I'm African, you know? But sticking to the subject at hand, like I said, it has a lot of an effect on the diaspora community, especially those that are born there right now. If we were taken there under 7, and this impacted us, Kawaran those that are born there now.
And this is where we come to the point, Abdul, of now discussing about what made us buy the ticket, Google.com, Mogadishu, from Mogadishu to whatnot.
Well, that's a good question. What made you buy that ticket?
For me personally, I thought to myself, you know what, Horta, the city has been liberated. This is on the 2012 era. I'm speaking, this is 2012, when just before the election. So I said to myself, okay, look, your city of birth has been liberated, and your father is there, and there's a lot of properties that needs to be accounted for our family and for my next generation. So I took a ticket holiday, 3 months, but the 3 months ended up being 3 years. And in the 3 years ended up being having a family here and whatnot, and starting work and building.
So you're a full-time resident?
I'm a full-time resident, but I do go the occasional trips back to the UK, especially the winter time, because Somalia is very warm, Hawaii absolutely hot, mashallah, beautiful sun, but you still miss that winterish feeling,
No, I can understand. So the main thing that drove you out was you knowing that the city of Mogadishu was liberated.
And I had to get accounted for my family's property because, like I said, things was gradually opening up. People were building they're rebuilding their lives. And my father was here based in Mogadishu. So I decided, okay, it's time for me to go back to Somalia. I booked a ticket. And, during run up to that event of booking a ticket, I opened up a blog that I thought to myself, okay, let me document all my journey through Mogadishu while I'm there. And then I could write it up for the diaspora or for my brothers and cousins.
Did you do the blog while you were in Mogadishu, or did you start the blog before Mogadishu?
I started the blog in UK.
Okay.
So that was only talking about, the situation analysis, political analysis of Somalia and whatnot. But when I came to Somalia, it changed into a, social blog where I talk about the lifestyle of people. And I have so many, almost like 42,000 subscribers and almost over 100 articles from 2012 till now, documenting the journey of my journey throughout Somalia.
That's fantastic. To the listeners who are interested in the blogs and would like to read, you will find all these descriptions in the link below. My case was a little bit different, I guess. Well, with me, again, it was that sense of belonging. And for those of you who are from London, any listeners from London who are familiar with the neighborhoods Essex, okay, will understand where I'm coming from. Just imagine yourself as a young black African living in the depths of Romford back in the early 90s. I mean, you start questioning your own skin color. So that place taught me to start looking for myself, basically. So I started that journey of finding out who I am, started to question family, relatives and whatnot about our motherland. And eventually back in 2008, my preparation started. Although the country was in havoc at the time, it was in a militant war at the time, that didn't fade me. Because at the end of the day, war and drama and thuggery is everywhere in the world.
And many people get scared not to travel.
Yeah, so I didn't buy into the media. I didn't buy into all these killings that were happening in Mogadishu. I didn't buy into it. What I needed to do was I needed to see it with my own two eyes come down. And eventually when I did come, I started a blog just like yourself, Hassan. I wrote a few things down. At the end, I got out of blogging. I just stopped writing afterwards because you become part of the system. Before, I was new. So in my office, I was working at the time doing data collection for those who had lost their certificates, driver's license, passports. So we were doing first-hand data and collection on people's information. So while I was doing that job, I was doing the blogging on the side. At the time, it was exciting. Mogadishu. But then when you have a few near misses, you become part of the normal. You stop writing. Do you know what I mean? So that's what drove me here, a sense of belonging. I've worked in the UK. I've done many jobs. I just wasn't satisfied. Studies, completed it, wasn't satisfied. Was getting paid well, wasn't satisfied. Because I knew something was missing.
And again, it was that missing that connection to who you are as Abdul.
Yes, to who I am. And then finally, after 2008, 2 years of preparation, 2010, I landed in Mogadishu. And lo and behold, all my people that were advising me, all the advices came true. It came to pass. At that time, at that moment, Mogadishu was not a place for tourists. It was really horrible at that time. But what I can say, alhamdulillah, from 2010 and today, 2020, 10 years later, we're sitting outside, cool, breeze, drinking on something cold. I mean, it makes a difference. So I feel nice, I feel happy.
You feel like that long-lost connection has been refound?
That thirst has been quenched. So I feel satisfied.
So, and Abdul, if we can now go to, what advice should we give the Somali diaspora, the young? Advice in terms of, how should they mobilize themselves, or what steps should they initiate to come back home? And
well, to be honest, to come back home, it takes an individual. An individual person to reach that decision on their own.
In Somali, go on. Like you need to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Af Somali is a lot better. Yeah. Go on. Kaas ino qafka gaaro way oo asaga iska dhacdhiyo. And for him to say, you know what, I'm done. I need to go. Okay. The first step is you took that go on. You took that decision. You said you're gonna come more. Then I'll say go ahead with it. But my main advice is to those who are stuck in the diaspora community. Whether it is for their lifestyle of the diaspora community, or whether it's for, Mogadishu or Somalia has got a lot of trouble and I have nabat here. For whatever purpose it is, I'll tell you one thing for sure. Nowhere is better than your own people. And I'm not saying this out of a prejudice or stereotype. The main thing is the world today is good for you to show off your culture. It's good for you to show off your tongue. You have a tongue. It's good to be bilingual. And if you can speak multiple more languages, it's even better.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there's advantage to everywhere. And also, remember this. Why? Question where you are, exactly where you are right now. It's probably a concrete jungle, an urban place, buildings, nice glasses, tall sky rises. What has those sky rises brought to your spiritual need, emotions? It doesn't bring anything. It's been scientifically proven that a human being needs nature. So that peace is what the human being needs in order for him to recollaborate with his own mind. So in infrastructures like metropolitan places like New York, London, you don't find that. I'm sorry, I've been in London for so long. You don't find that. I've traveled a lot. Most places that I've found peace are places which do not have too many infrastructures, too many buildings, widespread places.
Like you mean like Mel? That's open air.
An open space.
Open space.
Whether it be a beach, whether it be a desert, whether it be a forest, whether it be mountains, especially like Canada. Bismillah. Canada is a place to find yourself.
But if I could cut in, Abdul, you know, some people will say, without any building, without any traffic, without any cars, without any gasoline, motorbikes, I can't sleep. That I could lay in, because they customly grew up into, you know, a society where it's very loud, it's noisy, it's pollution. There's, you know, kids running around screaming and whatnot. So some people will say, I need to see that in order to engage and to function.
So basically what you're trying to tell me is that somebody needs to live off noise pollution.
But some people will say that. Some people will say that because I've seen it from my example. I've seen a cousin of mine who came to Somalia. You know, she could not resist, you know, this...
Silence.
What? Quietness. You know, Mogadishu is not silence, but in terms of
quietness.
Exactly, especially at night time. When it reaches about 8 o'clock in Somalia, Mogadishu, Garahan, it tend to be quiet. The city, if things die down, you start to hear the local cats and whatnot. So Marka, she could not stand, you know, this. She thought this was an alien culture for her personally, because she grew up to, like I said, you know, in the city, London, very loud.
No, I can understand. That person would be somebody who finds it hard to adapt, and that's totally normal.
And then, like I said, like I'll go, Abdul. One thing that I have in my heart and my mind is that Somalis can easily adapt to anything.
But she didn't seem to adapt
because she was psychologically, you know,
it's
embedded into different society.
But you see, that's exactly my point there. You have been conditioned with all this chaotic noise and pollution and all this, so to function. But to be honest, the health experts have already said that all this pollution and this chaos would bring only nothing but problems to your health, to your mental state, you know. It doesn't end there, you know. And if this girl, I promise you, if she gave herself just a week or two, just locked away her mobile phone, all her internet connections, and sat, I believe me, she would have found her inner self.
And I totally agree with you. I 100% agree with you, Abdul. Me personally, if I come back to my experience, I remember I stayed at Warshit for 48 days. In a row, Abdul, in a row. We was doing the local governance work system. Oh my God. Wallahi, I felt like I was in my own world. I had 3 kilometer beach to myself.
Nice.
Nobody next to me swimming. You know, the rural life in Somalia, it's really wonderful. Like, in how do we, as now young Somalis who rediscover themselves, how do we persuade others that when you come to Somalia, do not just only stay, obviously security reasons, but there are many districts that are, you know, liberated, that are free to go. So how do we convince the youth to explore their heritage, their villages and whatnot?
It would be very difficult, firstly, to try to convince somebody to come all the way out to Somalia, because like you said just a minute ago, AMNI, security reasons. Yeah, the security is a bit sketchy. But one thing I can say to make them come in the future is be proud of who you are. Be proud of who you are. That we don't choose who our parents are. We don't choose what skin color we're born in. So whatever you're given, be proud of it. Be proud that you have a nation, you have a land, you know, you have brothers, sisters. Okay, maybe they'll dispute. There's a counter backlash to that. What is a Somali going to do for me if he's dwelling in Qabil? Qabil, again, is a virus which downplayed our entire society. It destroyed our respect. It destroyed our dignity. So I will say one thing. With those who are living in that mindset, they won't last long. And today, with the extreme, rapid growth of Mogadishu and Somalia, it will die down one way or another. And if it doesn't die down, what have you got to lose? Even today, when you are living in a Chinaman's land or a white man's land,
you're still a Somali.
You're still a Somali. Or what does the Arab say? Mark, anyway, I don't want to say it due to the listeners. So, moving on to the point, be proud of who you are. Be proud of your culture. Be proud of your language. Don't ever let anybody down talk you. You do realize that you are someone. And remember that.
And when you do find out who you really are, when you do find out your heritage, your culture, there's this amazing euphoric feeling that cannot be explained. And really, Abdul Hawai, you touched on a very important points in terms of.
I'll ask you something here. We do lack a bit of recreational places. That isn't a doubt. We lack a few recreational places. But the mihimad is, you would go and fly out to Barbados, Jamaica, San Dominico. Yeah, you won't come to your land, which has better beaches than San Dominico, Barbados, and Jamaica put together. And always, I tell my young Somali brothers and sisters out there, even to the elder listeners, do not let the system manipulate you. The system is not your friend. The system will come to your garden and say your garden is a piece of rubbish. You go work in the factory while we make your garden for you. The system will downplay your country, your nation, your language, everything, so that you can contribute to their system and forget about your own land. So what are you left with? Sticks and rocks. Absolutely. So, again, ask yourself a question. As a Somali, I'm not speaking about any other nation, just as a Somali, you have the longest coastline in Africa, minerals, all of that. And I'm not going to get into that's another subject. But you have such bounty. Yet, you're running to play, or you're not running to, but like you said in the beginning of our conversation, we left for the sake of security. We left because there was a collapse of society. And I agree, you know. But that little, no, I wouldn't say but, however, that, never forget, England cannot offer you what this place offers you. Yes, however, there are many people that can argue with me and say education, health, so forth, so forth, so forth. Let's get there when we get to that bridge. But for now, remember your language. Don't let the system tell you that you are rubbish. And come home one day. Experience it for yourself and then talk. If you don't like it after that, each man to his own.
And I think that should wrap up our conversation for today, for only today, because like I said, we want to do this in a regular basis. We want to get the word out that, you know, Somalis are having conversations that, you know, don't talk about us, talk to us, that we are here, we are talking, we can engage, and we have ideas that not technically may not be working for us right now, but in the long term, we do have plans as a society. I think that's what don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Inshallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.